Really excited to see some new people we've just met through the Design Science Studio, which just kicked off its third cohort, and some other great connections here. And so, like I say, this is a place to both be inspired and to share your visions of the new Earth. So everyone's going to have a chance to chime in, because I'm really excited to hear what people have to share today with visions, and to like synergetically all come together. So what I plan to do for this, though, is just to give a little bit of my background, my visions, and also just talk specifically about one of my big inspirations, which you could see behind me is this incredible drawing of what's called the Ultima or Sky City. And I'm going to actually pull up his website. This is the architect Eugene Sway, who I've known about his work for many years, and he's been creating his work since the 70s, I believe. He's he's a little bit older than me, and he's very, very proficient and in getting his work out into the world. But I've never contacted or ever met him, and I actually included this project in my book, Portal to the New Earth, under some of the major inspirations that align with the visions that I have of how we can create and build future cities. And so what was very interesting, though, is that there was a show at the Museum of Modern Art that just opened in September. It runs through the end of January 2024, called Emerging Ecologies, Environmental Architecture. And in that show of about 30 different people, of course, including Buckminster Fuller, and even going back to Frank Lloyd Wright's work, really notable people, is this incredible survey of about 30 different architects, of which Eugene's work is included. Also, actually, there's 6 of the people that I include in my book, and I don't include that many. So it was a pretty comprehensive selection of the people that, the projects and people in the Portal to the New Earth book. So I was able to go to the opening last September through my connections with James Wines, who wrote the foreword for the book and has his projects in there, and Glenn Small, who is one of my biggest inspirations, and he happens to live out here in Joshua Tree, where I live, and we're very good friends. And so as soon as I walk into the show, I see this incredibly dressed person, like in a spacesuit. And I knew immediately that that was Eugene Sway, because I know that he, besides doing architecture, designs his own clothing. So I went right up to him, introduced myself, showed him the book, kind of apologized that I didn't ever contact him or his studio to include his work in the book, and said, I have your work in my book, but, I self-published it and I have it online to share for free so people can be inspired. And immediately he was like, that's great. I love it. So glad you're getting this work out there. And to that end, I just recently interviewed him, and I'm just about to make public the video I recorded interviewing him. So I just want to briefly just go and take a look at his website and just show you, where he's coming from, just to kick this off and to get you guys inspired and introduce you to his work. And of course, what I did here is I think I closed the tab that had his website open. So I'm going to open it up real quick and then share the screen with that. Okay, so what's going on here? Oops, I'm back to share screen, and here it is. Great. So when you land on his page, right there, evolutionary architect. He began developing his philosophy of an evolutionary architecture over 3 decades ago, continually studying the workings of nature from microscopic organisms to cosmology phenomena. Sway has developed an architectural philosophy deeply rooted in nature, science, technology, and ecology. Designs mix beauty and functionality. Sway's artistic prowess merged with decades of study and success in design practicality. And, it's easy to find, but I'll just throw it in the chat because, for your reference for later on. What I'm not going to do, which I kind of want to do, is go to legacy. But this paragraph right here is so well written about his background and what he's about. And we'll maybe just read the last sentence. His legacy is to return our human-made environments to a close kinship with nature itself and give expression to our human reach for originality and the unknown, to make the seemingly impossible possible, intelligent, and beautiful. So, I'm so closely aligned with his vision. And what we're going to just do is just jump into the conceptualized section of his website, just so you could see these drawings that he has made of these various, these are different residences. We discussed this in our interview, here is this huge tower, the City by the Sea. This is the one here. I'll click quickly on it to show you this project that, and we discussed this, so I won't go into detail here about it. Just you can go watch our interview on Portal to the New Earth on YouTube to get him explaining this huge, incredible organic tower. And we'll go back to just going through these visions that he's been drawing. And it's really interesting because he doesn't use a computer for rendering anything. He's old school. And so everything, even now in his projects, he doesn't do CAD drawings. He really likes to be all organic and do everything by hand. So just fantastic visions. And of course, he a lot of these projects were like almost built, and they're just so extremely different than conventional architecture that in the end, he's hardly built anything because it's just so radical departure. But he's been teaching, and he's both in China. He's from the US, but he's Chinese and is taught in China. And I just find looking at these drawings to be greatly inspired. And what we're going to do is get to the one that's in the book, which is this Ultima Tower that he talks about. So this is his idea of this huge mega structure. So I came to being inspired about New Earth visions through Paolo Solari and his concept of arcology. And I've yet to do a New Earth visioning where I focus on Paolo yet, but Paolo published a book in 1969 called Arcology, City in the Image of Man. And I picked it up when I was first moved to New York City in like 1981 or so. I was like 22, and I went to an art show where there were these drawings of his ideas of these megastructure cities, different than Eugene's, but similar in that they were many thousands of feet, where you integrate the entire city ecologically. You remove all the cars and streets, and you make the whole space an ecological environment with gardens and your housing on human scale. So what this is a structure that's 2 miles high, but built like a suspension bridge. So you're using tensegrity in this, or where it's a lot of tension as opposed to all in compression. And each of these levels are huge levels with many hundreds of feet between them. I think you get an idea. Here's a scale of it in a mountainous environment, a plan view with a huge pond. So he understands integrating water and earth, which is a big vision that I close my whole book with, is the conscious integration of land and water. He was inspired by these huge termite mounds, and here it is how big it would be in San Francisco. So that it's monumental structure that would remove all the cars and just have these beautiful living environments inside. Not that this is exactly practical or exactly what I want to see built, but in my book, I have this concept called the 12 spiral city, which in some ways is very similar to this. But instead of discrete separate levels going up, in my vision, these levels would be a spiral going up, and there would be 12 of them. So, and all ecologically integrated, and yet all on a human scale. So that all the houses that we build are very natural, handmade, human built on this mega structure that then integrates everything together. So that's why this project was included in my book, because it very much overlaps with this vision that I've been developing for many years on the 12 spiral city, which of course I haven't yet done a standalone video on it. I haven't yet gone into detail with that in one of these New Earth visions, which at some point in the future, as I continue to do these, that might become the focus. And so I feel pretty much complete in what I wanted to share with Eugene's work, but we'll just go back and just skim through the rest of these projects that he has on his website, just to see the beauty of these visions. And you could easily access the website to get descriptions of what each of these projects he's developed are. He's integrating in, as you can see, those are like windmills integrated into it so that these will generate their own power. Of course, photovoltaics are integrated into a lot of them, self-contained. This one, and we end our video, which will be, like I say, on the YouTube channel soon, with this project here, which is the idea that this is like a flying city that or that has all of the visionaries living in it, that travels around the world to bring these visions of how we can build this, future ecological integration into these, super magical kind of, visionary habitations around the world. So it's kind of like a seed of this vision that can travel around and share these visions. So I'm going to stop my share, and hopefully that was as inspiring to you as it is to me when I learned about it, and open this up for discussion, because there's so many amazing people here that I know have great visions. And of course, Fernando, right off the bat. So please go ahead, Fernando.
Harlan, first, I'm so excited to be in this group call, because this is my dream, to be with this community. I only want to travel, and I'm a nomad, around the world to places that we've designed and built. There's these monstrosities going up right now called Project Neom in the Middle East, that we know of: the line, the cube, the islands, and we see the missing heart and soul that you're showing right here, Harlan, with Eugene's work and others, organic, natural intelligence. And to me, the work that we're doing to create these visions is life or death imperative to me. Our hair and our planet is on fire. And we have a generation of young architects and engineers who have no clue of Mother Nature. And they use the word sustainability as a co-opted, corrupted approach. So I love that you're bringing, in quotes, the old school, because to me, that's the new school. Back to earth, biology, the symbiosis and homeostasis with organic intelligence. I wanted to just share that excitement.
Yes, thank you. And, it's really interesting because, people like me, Eugene, Fernando, we've been thinking like this our whole lives. But when you go to a school, it's completely like they look at this stuff and they're like, that's crazy. And we're so ingrained in this pattern of what already works, which doesn't work, which is wrong, but it does work. Our governments are set up, our building codes, our architecture schools all embrace a technique and a way of approaching building that's not like this, and yet it's ingrained into our culture. So how do we tip the scales? How do we shift? So I'm really excited to hear some of the other new people, just not only to respond to what I've just shared, but like to introduce yourself and what you're doing. Especially, I'm just going to call on Shane, because we've never yet really met or talked, but I know that Shane is working on a project in the Azores, and I've been feeling some weird call. I've learned about the Azores. The Azores are these Portuguese islands, but they're actually in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. They're about it's not quite halfway, but about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way. They're like so far in the middle of the Atlantic. But I just want to get your feedback and background just on your New Earth visions, what you're doing, who you are, please.
Cool. Thanks, Harlan, and thanks for introducing us to that work. It was super inspiring to see those organic drawings. I think people that have our perspective don't really need to have things explained. They can just observe a shape and feel the harmony that it creates. So I'm Australian. I'm living in the Azores. It's been a very interesting journey how I arrived here. I'm a steward for a project called Frequency Village, which is home for human and planetary recreation. And the word recreation is really sort of like a key component of what we're doing. It's like we're recreating our own reality. The mission is to raise vibration. It's quite simple. And that was I received that from some beings in a transmission. And this raising vibration, actually, this book here it took me a few years to really land how simple it was, just that one line of raising vibration. And it's really about inner and outer alchemy, because the definition of alchemy is actually the raising of vibrations. And I think there's a big connection with the human body on a cellular level. And you mentioned looking at biology, Fernando, and I think that's really where we're going. I'm sort of zooming into the soil being connected to the gut, being connected to everything else. And I think that actually the microbiology, even parasitic activity in the stomach, is actually one of the keys to unlocking humanity. So we're actually building an interconnected network of 144, let's say, planetary innovation spaces around the world. And these spaces have everything. It's like a little cosmos within reality. So we have sovereign spaces. We're doing a very interesting law structure, which actually Michael developed. It's called a trifecta, and I'll let him explain that structure. But I feel like starting with sovereign structures in regards to trusts and and private members association ministries and things like that. So yeah, so we're starting here in the Azores. We have a beautiful oceanfront facility, 15,000 square meters right in front of the ocean. That's right where the sun sets. It's a very, very special place here. We're right next to a sacred site called Sete Cidades, which means 7 cities. It's an ancient volcano which is now full of water. Yeah, and then we have a beautiful farm plot, which is 6.2 hectares. And we're also purchasing another 2 pieces of land either side, which will total around 30 to 35 hectares. Yes, we're going to be doing all sorts of things from farming. We're going to have innovation laboratories. We're doing essential oil extraction and alchemy labs. So the alchemy piece is a big part of it. So yeah, that's just a real snapshot of what we're up to. But I think it's really about increasing life force. And that's really what I think we're all doing, is looking to increase life force, whether it's through structures or diet or community or things like that. Yeah, super happy to be here with you guys.
Is there a website for Frequency Village, a way we can find out more about it yet?
It's very interesting because in my last lifetime, and last technology lifetime, I did everything the opposite. I was out in the public first before we did things. And so this time we're actually doing things the opposite. We've built a lot of things and we've got a lot of things grounded. So we're actually going to be doing a lot of that sort of outward focused stuff early next year, probably around, leading into summer, European summer next year. We're going to be launching a lot of things. So we don't have a lot of stuff online, but I'm actually building, you saw the presentation, I think, Harlan, in the design science studio, and I'm also working on a new one. So yeah, pretty soon I'll have stuff out there.
Okay, well, that's so exciting. And why don't Michael, why don't you chime in, since you're working with Shane, introduce yourself and share any thoughts or ideas you have regarding, where we're going with this, building the new Earth.
Hi, Harlan. It's actually really cool to meet you. Yeah, I kind of knew about you before, and I was sort of like just kind of surprised that, to kind of be here on the call with you. Yeah, so I'm Michael. I'm in Cape Town. I'm in South Africa at the moment. I was actually just in the Azores with Shane a few months ago, kind of participating in the Frequency Village. And I'm also working on another project called Unitree, and Shane's also participating in that one. It's basically, I'm a software developer, but we're basically building a regenerative financial system. So the word Unitree is short for unity through trees or tree units. And the whole idea is to create forest banks and create like a financial system that's actually backed by us regenerating the earth. So basically people can contribute whatever they can contribute to these like regenerative projects. And our whole idea is to create a network of regenerative projects and bring together all the different people who contribute, like the builders, the architects, the people who can do the permaculture and people with the land, and then create basically like an ecosystem. It's almost like the Kickstarter for regenerative projects. That's basically where we're going. And I'm also quite interested in plant medicines and consciousness. And and then as Shane, we're also using these. We've got a lawyer on our team who's also the property lawyer for 30 years, but we're kind of exploring doing everything in the private right now. So outside of like government jurisdiction, basically we've got a ministry, we've got these earth trusts, and we've got like our private membership association. Basically we're looking at building systems that integrate these private law structures, and basically so that we can basically be in our sovereignty as much as possible. Because I feel that we are sort of like needing to free ourselves from giving our power away to like corrupt systems and taking our power back. And so I'm quite interested in how to architect that at the moment. Great.
Thank you so much. And that's so exciting. Actually doing stuff that's getting, in the real world. I was just connected with this project called Regen Earth, where they're hosting in Colorado a conference in December, for people that are really working on actually doing developments right now. I don't know if I don't have the link right now to put in the chat, but I'll find it and add that. But it's something, if you guys don't know about that, just to at least be aware of it. Not that, to just connect in, because there's so many people that, on one hand, I come from a very visionary perspective, and just thinking about the most ultimate possible way of doing it. And then there's the people that are coming from actually real estate developers that actually go and work with, building stuff and are looking to shift that paradigm in the real world, and so I'm kind of coming from this, very, future-minded visionary way out there like Eugene. And we need the people though that are now, right now, it's really happening. It's the scale is tipping, in the world. It's just barely, it's still ingrained obviously in the old way for the most part. I don't even want to talk about that because I see that still happening. You see places going in and still putting in strip malls and the separate houses in the same paradigm, which is like the people that are actually starting projects like you guys are and doing it, so coming together to share those visions. Anyone else want to chime in right now? Can I call on someone, or does someone want to talk?
I wanted to share that I just got back from 10 months throughout Southeast Asia, in Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Laos, seeing the ancient architecture of Angkor Wat and many other pre-Hindu and pre-Buddhist structures. After spending a year in Mexico in 2019, 2020, going through the entire Mayan empire of pyramids and an expedition rig. And I've been to South Africa to see the stone circles twice. And I have a plan to go to Portugal, including the Azores, to look for land sites to build these new temples that I've been designing. But one of the things that I really like what you're saying, Harlan, is the visionary approach to cities to ascend humanity, to have that 1,000-year vision. And when you get in front of architecture that was designed to last forever, these temples had a seed in them that are 1 million years old. There is biology and archaeology and geology under all the star forts in the world that is as old as the fossil record in there. There's an energy imprint. So the visionary aspect of these civilizations is talking through these temples through a DNA communication in the crystals in the limestone. It's a living Akashic record. And this language I'm unfolding here is the inspiration for the new natural intelligence methodologies that we're going to be incorporating in all this architecture.
That's really interesting. You brought up the star forts that are all over the world. And this has come up quite a number of times recently about this suppressed global civilization of the Tartars or Tartarian. And there's even like books online you can read that, the whole, and sometimes it's a little far-fetched. You're like, oh, come on. But a lot of it is based on facts that you can really relate to. And the star forts are one of them. They're all over the world. There's incredible geometry. But what you just said to me piqued a new level of understanding that this way of inhabiting the earth already existed. It's been suppressed by the control paradigm, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can tune in to this information that's already been encoded and allow it to, channel it back into existence rather than have to figure this out from scratch. And that there were civilizations that were tuned in and living harmoniously. A lot has been coming up about the ancient Lemurian civilizations that is reawakening. It's been coming at me in so many different angles, different people hosting these like Lemurian conferences in different parts of the Pacific, on Hawaii, in Tahiti, and even that the attack is most likely that happened in Lahaina was the power control paradigm to suppress these arising Lemurian consciousness that's coming back onto the earth. And that's this new frequency or higher frequency. It's not a new it's new for us now because it's been kind of lost and suppressed for the most part, but it's an ancient higher frequency consciousness. It already existed, and now we're just re-embodying it. So it's like we don't have to invent it. We just have to be able to tune back into it. And of course, the Azores are, in some very much connected to the Atlantean energy.
The new Atlantis.
Yeah. So, and that's part. And in my understanding of this cosmology of time, Atlantis was after Lemuria, and of course we know that Atlantis was a great civilization that maybe misused its power and was, completely erased. Not completely erased. Plato wrote about it. If it was completely erased, he wouldn't have. But for the most part, it's turned into a myth and not an actual thing. So yeah, if anyone wants to just even chime in on that whole idea of that, of this new earth, or anything else to share. I mean, I'd love to hear if Stefan wants to join in, because or that Michael's got something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can actually share something that was given to me like 6 years ago, a vision that was given to me. The one night I woke up in this dream, and I knew I was in a dream, and I was fully awake, conscious, and lucid, and I was as real as real life. And I actually had a being visit me, and the being took me into the desert and showed me the civilization. And the civilization was manifesting the presence of God, and their collective higher self was God. And the first thing the being tells me is that they don't use money. And the reason why they don't use money is because at the heart of their society, they've got the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant was, the being says these are the Israelites, so that they don't use money. And the reason why they don't use money is because they've got the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant is every Israelite's covenant with their inner gods, their soul, and God, which is their collective higher self. And that's what basically got them all into the same wavelength. And the being told me the reason why we use money is because we're all on different wavelengths to each other. And basically, because our collective consciousness is God, and because money gets everyone onto the same wavelength, therefore money is God in our society. But it's basically like a false God that we're all worshipping. And it's basically, I kind of feel that we're here to kind of come back to God consciousness, and that we are this sort of like divine technology, and we're here to basically come onto the same wavelength. And I think that's how we used to build these like crazy ancient civilizations with the pyramids and everything in alignment with the star systems and all that kind of stuff, is to do with us kind of being in this kind of collective God consciousness, state of consciousness, where we're all living in alignment, because we're like this divine intelligence. So if we're all living true to ourselves fully, then we'll all be living in alignment with the higher power. And then that will sort of like get us, basically that would kind of be like how we create peace on earth. It's kind of what I think we're here to do, is we're here to create peace on earth, and we're all here to come into resonance with the same universal intelligence, and then everything we would create would be in alignment with that intelligence. And then it's almost like we'd be, because I feel like we're stuck in some sort of like artificial simulation as a species, and I kind of feel like we get to come into alignment with like the true reality, which is like I call it the cosmic reality. And the ancient cultures that were building these, like let's say, visionary cities and everything, is because they were totally connected to the greater reality. And it's almost like a spiritual puzzle of some kind that we had to unlock to kind of free our consciousness to come back to this kind of collective intelligence again.
That's great. And of course, you live in South Africa, where Michael Tellinger, who's been a big proponent of the Ubuntu movement, which is a process to move beyond money. So I have two things I want to respond. First to you, and then something which Shane said earlier that I didn't comment on. So first of all, I just changed my background to this very crude computer rendering of my 12 spiral city. It wouldn't look at all like this. It would be way more growing organically over time, but it shows the scale and the proportions. These are buildings that could be up to 45 feet high. So like the Victorian houses in San Francisco and other beautiful human scale buildings, but then you see there's trees on top, and you see in the background, this is the full 12 levels of these spiraling ramps. So then I talk about this, and people are like, where are you going to get the money to build something like that? And I came up with this response earlier this year. I point to a tree over there. I go, you see that tree? Did it pay the earth for the minerals it used? Did it pay the sky for the water that fell? Did it pay the sun to shine on it? The tree is there. We're going to build this city the exact same way that tree came into being. We as humans just work. And this then ties into the other comment I wanted to make on Shane's, talking about the bacteria biomes, both in our guts and in the soil. There's thousands and thousands of different species in each inside of us and inside the soil. And I just read somewhere that they did this test somewhere. It was in Scandinavia, where they took a sample of soil from the forest and a sample of soil near the sea. And there were over 4,000 different bacteria in each sample, all different because they were localized for that environment. But we know that soil needs to have this to be rich. And we're learning now, like the Amazon was once an incredibly inhabited area, and that the soil in the rainforest there was not just nature, but it was an interaction with nature to bring it about, because they made this incredible soil that we're finding there, and just also recognizing in our bodies. So and the thing is, as above, so below. We become like the bacteria on the human scale to build these inhabitations on the earth, not just for humans. And of course, in one of my earlier a few months ago, I talked about Bruno Taut. One of my biggest influences is German expressionists from right after World War I, wrote this book, Alpine Architecture, about building crystal cities on mountains, all the way to building cities in space. But he basically proclaimed an extremely spiritual view of human beings being these spiritual organs of the earth to build with and of the earth. Like the earth is waking up and we are the earth waking up, to be able to shape and form the earth for our benefit, but for all life's benefit, to interact in the most integrated, beautiful, sacred way. Michael, please.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you was talking about this and thinking about the tree and relating it to the tree. Before you said the tree, I was thinking it'd be quite amazing to use the system that we're building to actually try and build these cities that you want to build. Because all it is, because basically money is just an accounting system. So you say, where you're going to get the money, we can just basically print the money out of thin air. We can inspire people with a vision to contribute towards building these like new earth cities. It's about like just kind of putting the vision together and saying, okay, we want to build this, and we contribute, and we can basically give you tokens for contributing, but basically we build. There's actually no limit to what we can do. Do you know Alan Watts?
Oh yes, of course. I love Alan Watts.
So I was listening to a talk of his the one day, and he was talking about how during the Great Depression, you saw all the same people, you saw all the same land, you saw all the same factories, and you saw all the same resources. You just didn't have this thing called money, and therefore nothing happened. And he said that's like builders going to a building site, and they can't build because they run out of inches to measure things.
Right. Oh yes, please. I see. Oh my God, it's Doctress Nutopia. We've met many years ago. She is a Paolo Solari devotee, scholar, whatever, has been connected through that. So please, love to hear from you. Unmute. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, it's good to see you all here. Harlan, have you ever considered building your city with a co-housing model? Because that is working.
Yes, of course, co-housing, is, been arising all over the world. And, I just watched this introductory video to that Regen Earth convergence that's coming up, where they're starting to talk to some people. And there was this one person that has lived and created over a dozen different communities, some based on co-housing, and just, and I'm very much interested in intentional communities, which co-housing is a form of an intentional community. Clearly, the way our current Western civilization paradigm of everyone living in either apartments apart or in suburban sprawl in separate houses where we don't share resources, we all have our own things, is a paradigm to basically keep us apart, to basically, cut our power down. Whereas in a co-housing, you have families all coming together and you have shared facilities and you're working together much more in community. So yes, that's a very, co-housing is an important model that's taking place right now, which would be embraced in the way we do design and build these future villages, cities and all. And I don't feel like it's the only paradigm, but there's going to be a radical reorganization of community from our current Western one, which is by the most prevalent one. But there are people living in co-housing. There are people living in other communities that are working on that level. Of course, there's always issues that come up in these communities that still need working out. I've even heard the word social permaculture to deal with the human factions of how our society and people work, because that's been that's probably the biggest stumbling block in any intentional community. Isn't the visions of the buildings and the gardens and all that. It's how the people all get together. So if anyone else wants to chime in.
I've been looking at the co-housing. And it seems like you could build it through co-housing, and they get a developer, people start selling their houses to get the money to buy a unit into co-housing. So I mean, it's legal, they've done all the work to make it so that it will fit into the local government structure. So all you'd have to do is find people that love your designs and buy a piece of land and start doing it. I've suggested a co-housing at Arcosanti because they already have land. And I think there's enough alumni that would want to come back, to build, to do a co-housing there in Arizona.
Yeah, it's interesting. I first went to Arcosanti in the summer of 1983 when it was halfway between Flagstaff and Phoenix, and Palo Solari was given in 1970. I think it's 800 acres, which is, that's pretty big. That's over a square mile of this, just desolate desert just off of Interstate 17. And back then there was just like a gas station at the exit and there was hardly anything, maybe a few people. And his idea is that we build these three-dimensional integrated cities as opposed to suburban sprawl. And now it's completely surrounded by suburban sprawl, as close as they can get. You look out and you see all the houses there, and it's right at the intersection where the road goes up to Prescott, which is a really great climate in Arizona. And that entire 20, 30-mile stretch of road now is filled with suburban sprawl and shopping centers with the Home Depots and everything else to fuel the model which Palo, was proposing against. And of course, Palo died about 10 years ago, and Arcosanti is completely on hold. They haven't built anything new there. There's never been more than 100 or so people living there, and I'm sure it's much less than that at this point because of all of these issues. Stefan's going to chime in, please.
Yeah, well, I think that if you could,
Oh, sorry.
I just want to follow up
finish
here.
And then we'll,
I just want to follow up by saying, perhaps Harlan, this is your opportunity. Talk to Jeff Steins, talk to the board members of Arcosanti, see if you could, they'll give you a piece of land, to build your building there, because you are the architect to do this.
All right, thank you for that. And we'll see. I, at the very least, I've been envisioning hosting a New Earth visioning or portal to the New Earth event at Arcosanti to bring all of us together physically, or people like us, because it does have a beautiful amphitheater, and they were holding convergences there because it is a great backdrop for that. But for its future of development, we'll see. Thank you for that. So, Stefan, please, I'm excited to hear what you have to share on all of this conversation.
Aloha, Harlan, and everybody here. I'm Stefan, actually here in Sedona, Arizona, one of my many portal stops along the journey between Oahu and Ibiza. And so I've been circulating the Earth this last year, going to power magnetic vortices that register ancient memory, and also our portal to ascension beaming future design sites that catalyze Nova Terra Gaia into regenerative form. Because we are sovereign beings that share through extended love making, whether that's just a simple 3-minute hug or a tantra class. And loving presence of pure awareness, that's magic of alchemy begins to happen and ripple through the biology. So instead of working with old government systems, we need to let them just collapse and allow for our template of the original Lemuria to become clicked on again. And that can be seen within some indigenous peoples, but very few. So how do we regain that memory? Well, maybe sit with a 100-pound crystal skull, maybe do a 3-day vision quest in a redwood forest, or swim with the whales. Because those inspirations are within the mineral silica embedded structure of this planet. And that through DMT sparks your higher vision to create. And that creating isn't of a 3D model any longer. So if you watch the movie Frozen 2, that gives you a good idea of what I'm talking about. Put that together with Wakanda from Black Panther, you get the best of both worlds.
Thank you. I got so much from your share right now because you're speaking, but but like you said, you're in Sedona, you've just been traveling. We met in Mount Shasta. You're really able to embody your human form here on Earth to facilitate this evolution in the best way you know how to. I'd like to just speak a little bit, since we got to hang out for that day and driving, that Stefan is this incredible scientist. He comes from a background of being a very high level academic, and has worked for the government in the park services for many years with his expertise of natural sciences, understanding animals and working on that level. But that's his background. He's no longer doing that work, and now he's doing this work to be it just wherever he's guided to be on the Earth's energy spots, interacting with all these other super high level humans. Like we had the fortuitous meeting in Shasta and connected, and I gave him a ride to San Francisco so he could get a fly to Europe, where he just was for the past few months on this incredible journey of meeting other incredible people. And so, like, even though you only spoke for like 1 minute, I felt so much coming through. And in some way, I'd like to give you the platform to speak more, because I feel like, your presence, your energy, and then the words that you share with us are extremely powerful in helping us reconnect, even though pretty much everyone who came here today, you're here today because you already have a certain level of connecting to these frequencies and consciousness. But as we're blessed to be with Stefan today, if you have anything more to share, I'm totally open to it, because I just get so much, and everyone here does, from what you could share with us to help us on this journey.
You're welcome, de nada. I'm so blessed to be part of this inquiry encore, to fractalize our mosaic of memory, because that's what we're here to kindle, is the remembrance of original purity, of original connection and harmony and beauty to our soul, and therefore channel it through a body that is now evolutionarily awakening. And I can tell you from going to 3 very powerful festivals in England and Stonehenge, that things are clicking into place. I don't have fear or doubt, but what I do have is no attachment to old systems. So allowing those old systems to collapse with compassionate distance is super key, especially for older generations. And that will then allow for the opening of new spaces, literally crystalline spaces, non-carbon, to diamondize, so out of the fractal within comes the explosion without. And that explosion is the rockets of diamonds shooting through the volcano of Gaia, so to speak, metaphorically. And if your visions in your dream time are escalating that, expanding through the heart wave coherence, then all you got to do is just be in the right place at the right time. And then you meet your higher self, your avatar comes back online, you plug in with your indigenous self, your ancient past memory, and that all of a sudden clicks into place. That's pure alchemy within a body. And so that is now the genius of you from multi-dimensions, harnessing a quality never known to this planet before. The missing link is, how do we come together to create the cooperative communalism of contributionism? And so that's what I'm doing, is traveling to these nodes, Oahu in 2 weeks, then Bali, where we can galvanize structures within the crystalline modality to then anchor and originate these beyond the controllers, because we don't even exist in their paradigm anymore, if you know what I mean.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned our heart's coherence. So that reminded me. And so I think one of the biggest issues we're confronted with, which you kind of ended with, like, we're not in that control paradigm anymore. But how do we get the consensus reality, all the people in the world
Mhm.
together to start to, be on this frequency. And when the lockdown happened in March, shortly thereafter, there was this incredible post which got removed of some Andean native elder. She wasn't a Kogi, but she was identical to the Kogi. She lived on a mountaintop in the Andes, but she got stuck in LA. And she gave this profound message, which I actually hand wrote down most of it in a notebook that I have sitting right here. But I'm just going to share just very briefly the key part of that message. She basically said that we, the angels of light, are being confronted by the angels of darkness, or the fallen angels, in what was taking place. And, you can't talk to these people that are under that veil, she said, under the veil, and try to explain this to them verbally and say, look, don't you see? They're just going to yell at you and you're going to get in a fight, And so what she said is, all you can do is shine the light in your heart. And you use that word, the heart coherence. That's when
Exactly.
our heart is shining. So, it's not something we can do, what we're doing right now here on this Zoom call is a very physical embodiment of us coming together to hold this frequency as a group that then can go out into the morphogenetic field, into the noosphere, for other people to tune in. So that's my intention for hosting these meetings on this third dimensional level here, but then on these higher frequency levels of us all just knowing that the answer, to help people to wake up is just for us to come in and do our inner work of coming into our own personal coherence, which is a difficult for me. I'm a very outwardly focused person where I build all these portals to bring the Burning Man, do this stuff, and then inwardly I'm a very incoherent mess where I'm extremely anxious and confused, and so I'm working on that, but it's slow going because a part of me is very committed to it. It's like, put it down, and I'm like, no, because that's who I am. So it's an interesting dance, a lifelong dance I've had with that. Did you want to chime in? Yeah, I see. Great, go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I just believe we all have to come into our full authentic self and just realize that, and not really focus on the masses. I feel like whatever's coming through us that we need to create, that's really where we need to focus our energy. For example, we're creating this 144 grid around the world, and these will just be pillars of light and a real, real balancer throughout the planet. And I believe that these are all seeds, and I also feel we have to really build for generations ahead instead of thinking we have to do everything in the next 10 years, because I really feel that if we just breathe a bit and just really feel, what is the organismic solution, when you zoom out and look at it like a torus, and just see how's the energy out of balance, and how do we put grids across this planet to restore the chaos. And so, yeah, again, of course, not allowing the noise to come into our ears, and making sure that we take responsibility for what we're consuming. I think is also a big part of that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I've had this vision of planting these redwood forests that will be harvested in about 1,000 or 2,000 years, and done intentionally. Like our descendants will know, oh, look, that we're going to, and eventually 1,000 years from now, they're going to cut down the redwood trees, not just let them fall and die and rot in the forest. Some can do that, which is important, but we like using huge redwoods. And of course, we went in and devastated the whole California coast, but they love, and the trees love to be used and crafted into beautiful things done consciously and in harmony. And we plant this redwood forest to be used in 1,000 years from now. Our great will cut it down and make the most beautiful stuff out of it, because they knew that we were thinking of them now. What I want to do? I want to keep on track. Oh, Fernando wants to chime in because right after this, in 6 minutes, we have this Buckminster Fuller meeting, which I like to join in, and I can take a couple of minutes extra, but I like to keep this concise to the hour. So Fernando, did you want to just have something important to share? Because I want to keep this on track, and I
wanted to just resonate what our brother Shane and Stefan both have shared as being portals and anchors of light, traveling through all of these different energy centers. I'm going to be heading to the Big Island next week. I'll be doing a retreat there called the Cosmic Womb Temple. And what I've done is I've taken the last decade of presentations and lectures and modules of courses that we've doing. We do a course called The Holographic Human from Cell to Soul. And I'm transcribing my first of several books called Holocymatic Orchestration, The Art and Science of Conscious Creation. At the same time, I'm accelerating the building of my first Volsahedron dome. This structure is technology for ascension. So the site plan I'm quickly formulating is a center of mass creation facility of 12 temples, a temple of plasma, electricity, light, water, gravity, and thought, and the temple of thought that turns into form. What I gleaned from going to some of these structures in Cambodia, not just Angkor Wat, but others, is the vision of the psychedelic architecture that Stefan was referring to, where groups of meditators would gather in a circle in a resonant space and be able to transmit collectively the vision of the blueprint as a DMT experience. So there are no blueprints to a lot of these temples. They were projected through different bodies. And the biopolymer concrete that they came up with was a liquid cymatic technology before the Hindus. We're talking pre-diluvian technology, and this is being handed to all of us, how to do this. And in reference to what you said, Harlan, how we're going to finance and build these, I love what Dr. Natopia shared. You know, every time I look at a monstrosity, I said, if they got to do that, we get to do our cities of light, designed to live as living gods and goddesses, not as an entitlement or ego, but as the human potential, buildings to amplify consciousness, to be able to communicate directly to our star families. What do you think the aliens are waiting for? For us to wake the funk up, you know, to build landing sites. So after meditating and going to Machu Picchu and going to Teotihuacan and Chichen Itza, going to the stone circles in South Africa, I was in Chaco Canyon several times doing ceremonies. We're done with research. Declare yourself healed. Declare yourself research. We're not recovering anything. So I want to share two frequencies to live off. The only truth is what I create. Forget about everything else. And the other frequency is presence is abundance. Your presence is the abundance to do this.
Oh, that's awesome. So like I said, I do want to kind of keep this on track, although this is amazing. We really do need to come back together more. You know, the next scheduled one is just a month from now. But if anyone here, you know, we can reconnect as we see fit before then, if that makes sense. So what I was thinking, and I often do this when I give a presentation, is it, and a lot of people will do a little meditation, and I totally just dove in without doing the meditation. So I wanted to just maybe do a little closing meditation where we just take a few breaths together before we all leave. And what I was going to do though, and I'm going to put it in the chat, it's just going to be a super condensed form because this is a little bit more elaborate. But Tom Kenyon, who channels the Hathors and is this amazing sound healer, I put his website in there with this meditation called the Sphere of All Possibilities. So what we're going to do is just all together, we're going to take these few deep breaths, and then we're going to envision ourselves in the center of a sphere that's as big as the entire physical universe as we see it to be. So 15 billion light year radius sphere, something, you know, almost incomprehensibly big, but it's an entire sphere. And then we're going to envision this ourselves in front of us in the new earth that we're living in. And then we're going to see from the surface of that sphere points of light that come to our present self in our solar plexus or whatever energy center you resonate most with, projecting it forward to that future self in the new earth to create this new earth, because anything is possible. Like you said, if they could get the money to build those crappy things, we can come together to build this vision. And all of us here today, I'm sure, have this aligned vision of the most magical, sacred, beautiful earth. So if we just breathe together for literally like a minute is what I'm going to time it. Just ground yourself in, send your energy to the center of the earth, bring it up through your spine, spiraling up to the center of the universe, the highest dimension of source being, bringing it back down, centering on our heart, and then just breathing into that sphere of all possibilities, bringing those points of light through our being and projecting it forward to our future self. So we're going to do this together as a little closing meditation today. So, and then we'll have a moment or two for anyone else to chime in before we sign off. But let's just do it right now for 1 minute. Oh, I could see all of those points of lights for everyone here coming in and coming forward. And I could see and feel that beautiful earth that we're all breathing, living
Wow.
into existence. Anyone else that didn't have a chance to say anything, if you feel like wanting to say anything or before we close, just briefly. And if not, we'll just be connecting in other forms or other ways.
I left my contact information. We are looking for participants. This isn't a project, it's a projection. I don't have a belief system, I have a creation system, and it's happening. So if you're interested in the Center of Mass Creation, to be able to see how we're going to cite this, please contact me.
Thank you, Fernando. Thanks for showing up. And I didn't get to see, I know Tayo's from the Design Science Studio. Thanks. How do you pronounce your name? Do you want to just come on and say how that's pronounced?
It's Tayo.
That's what I thought. Thank you. I look forward to connecting. Yes,
You
go ahead.
talked about trees cut down, like the redwoods. The trees can live trees can live even if you cut them. Because trees can live as houses, furniture.
Yes, that's in my book. Mitchell Joachim actually has a TED talk called The Fab Tree Hab. He's like, why do we cut down a tree, cut it up, then go somewhere and put it back together? Let's just take the tree and grow it into houses. And it's true. We are going to be doing things like that as well, just growing our furniture, growing our houses. So thank you for chiming in on that. And like I say, that is in Portal to the New Earth book, that vision. So I'm so glad that you brought it up, that we don't have to cut the tree down to be able to use it.
On a positive end note, the banyan tree in Lahaina, where I was this May, under all the duress and stress through a direct energy weapon, fire, is now sprouting new green growth. It's the second largest banyan on the island of Maui, and it's a massive portal to this incredible planet we get to share.
Oh, yes, thank you. Anyone else got any closing remarks till next time? I'm just so glad this was such an incredible gathering.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, because this is always a fascinating discussion to listen into. It was a really yummy one today, too. We do this every Friday, or every last Friday of the month here on the Vision Train. So next month we'll have another one. And I also wanted to just plug that we're working with Harlan on a lecture series. We just had our first one this past Sunday, but the recording is available for that one. And we're going to be doing the second one, which is conceiving future environments, in next month, I think on the 19th, on a Sunday. So, oh, yep, you beat me to dropping the link in the chat.
And there's a discount code for both. And I'm going to talk to you about making a discount code for this second one to make it affordable, especially for people. I think it's $44 right now, but we'll come up with one. So if you want to hold off and wait till I generate something to save a little bit of money, and we're going to get as many people, that's November 9th, Sunday, November 19th is going to be a deep dive into everything 12 Spiral City and all that stuff. So yeah, looking forward to connecting with all of you more. I appreciate and so grateful that you all joined today. And this will be on the Vision Train YouTube, this video, for if you want to refer other people or refer back to it. So thank you, Alicia. Anyone else have anything pressing before we sign off today?
This is Nina. I just wanted to say thank you so much. I chimed in a month or so ago with my son, Dresden, my 12-year-old, and he just lights up every time you come on, and he's such a visionary. And I'm just so grateful to be exposed to these wonderful minds in our community that can nurture a young mind like his, that gives me hope for our future.
Okay, and you know what I'm going to do right now before signing off, since a lot of people are in the Design Science Studio and are connected with the Buckminster Fuller Institute, is I will share that Zoom link if people want to continue and see what's happening with the Buckminster Fuller Institute. So here is the Zoom, and I'm going to sign off and jump in and see what's going on in the Buckminster Fuller Institute world. So anyone who wants to continue can join us over there. And until next time, thank you so much. Thank you, Alicia, and thanks to
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Great to meet you.
Choo choo.
Love, see you guys.
Ciao.
All right.